Hello again. In this tutorial, I'm going to be covering how to combine letters to create a unique form, okay? So let's get started. So in this tutorial, I'm going to take two letters. We're going to type them out here. Get my text tool here, my type tool, and we will type out and see it's got the default what we had last time. I'm going to bring this down into 0 as far as our tracking so it's not so far apart, but we're not going to need that for long. I'm going to type the I'm going to type a D, a lowercase d. Whoops, sure here. I'm going to do that again. I'm going to just get my text tool again, just click, and we'll type D, lowercase d, and uppercase F. Okay, and I am going to pick. Let's see here. I think the last time I was been using Gil Sans a lot. We could try a different font here, and I want to be using a sans serif font so they kind of combine together. I'm wondering if Futura will work. Gil Sans I know definitely works, but let's try Futura. Huh, okay, so we got Futura here, okay, and we're gonna keep this at let's see, we got medium, condensed, extra bold, or we got bold. Okay, we'll just use bold, okay, and we could make, well, what we're going to do is we are going to combine this and make what looks like a skeleton key, okay? So let's take our letters here and let's turn these to outline, okay? So let's go to object, no, actually go to type, apologize there, and go to create outline. So this will turn it into a vector path, okay? Now both of these are connected here, okay? And by the way, I'm still on this same layer as Bart Simpson, which is fine for this one. But we could also move it to another one. But I'm just going to use this same layer for this. It's not going to hurt anything, okay? So anyway, it's a little hard to see the selection. And as I was talking about before, the color blue, the color of the layer here. This is a green. I always hate this because it makes it so hard to see. So let's make this a dark blue or maybe a brick red. So it makes it a little easier on my eyes. Okay? And that's something that's so important to do. Now, what I want to do is I want to, these letters are now, if we go to outline mode, I went to Command Y. You see their vector paths. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is they're grouped. So let's ungroup them. Okay. You can go to Object Ungroup, or you do Shift Alt G or Shift Command G. That is. That's our keyboard shortcut. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this over so we can kind of create what looks like a skeleton key, but we're going to have to do a better job of moving this around. Okay. So let's take this. So we're going to actually maneuver our letter form here. And we can bring this up as high as we want to here. Okay. Now let's zoom in closer to see. We want to line this up. So what I'm first going to do is I think it would be easier just to line it up this way if possible. I'm going to do Command Y so we can actually see this and see if we can get this closer in here so that this will be lined up. Okay, keeps doing that. So let me see here what I've got going on here. I got smart guides. I'm going to see about snap to point. I'm going to put snap to point on. This is up under view. I'm hoping this may help me here because it's not doesn't seem to want to do this. No, snap to point's not going to work well either. Okay, well let's bring this D over and see if we can make it snap. All right, I'm going to move it over a little bit more. Oh, there we go. Finally moved it. Okay. Sometimes, depending, like if you zoom in really close here, you know, super tight, you may be off by just a hair. Okay. Now that is pretty much on there, but we want those to be lined up there just like that. Okay. And next, what I'm going to do is I am going to get my direct selection tool. A is the keyboard shortcut for that. And I'm going to click on, and we're going to actually, I double click this. So what it's done is it's isolated this. And so I'm going to unisolate it. So I'm going to go back to one level here, go back to this. Okay, there we go. Okay, now let me click on this line here. I'm going to just drag this over here. I'm holding down my shift key as I'm dragging it. And we want to get those two things lined up perfectly here, okay? And so let's see how close that is. It's still off. It's not good enough. So let's go in here. a little bit more. I'll zoom out just a little bit so we can see what we're doing here. Okay. And I'm going to pull this out just a little bit more first. I held on my shift key as I'm doing it because I want the top of this right. Now, hold down my shift key and we're going to get this right on the money there. Okay, now let's take a look here and see how close this is. All right. So we want to get these close, right on top of each other if possible. So, and what we're going to do is we're going to combine these. And I'm going to be looking at your file that you submit to see if you've actually combined these letters. Now I'm using, like I said, I use Futura. You could use Helvetica. You could use Gill Sans. You want to use a serif font for this exercise because we don't want things, we don't want any extra feet or anything that would come with a serif font. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select these two shapes here. Just drag over them. We can go back to Command Y if we want to for a moment, and see it in preview mode. But I've got my Pathfinder palette open, and I'm gonna hit this first one called Unite. Now remember, if you don't have your Pathfinder open, you want to go up under Window and Pathfinder and find it, okay? But the first one here is called Unite, and what it will do is it will actually make it into. I'm going to switch to outline mode here. It'll make it into one letter, okay? See, that looks really nice like that. Now, if something is a little off or askew here, we can always delete. So like I'm looking here. I'm zooming in really close here. And I'm just going to click and pull for a second. See that it's created that. Well, we can always go in here with our pen tool. And as long as our pen tool still has the option to subtract, or we can get our pen tool that will delete anchor points, we can delete this anchor point and delete that anchor point. And let's zoom out here so you can see what I just did there. So now that's a perfectly straight line going straight up there with no added anchor points. And so there's not going to be any. I'm going to do the same here. Okay, we'll get rid of that one. Get rid of this one. We did not need those anchor points because we wanted those lines straight up and down. Okay, now let's manipulate this text a little bit. This is something that maybe some graphic design teachers may just like cringe at, but if we're going to make a font, if we're going to create a logo, not a font, okay? If we're going to create a logo, we might be using letter forms, and so that's something that happens sometimes. So I want to make this look kind of like maybe we'll bring this in just a little bit like this. I'm just bringing that in, and then let's tilt this in a little bit, perhaps more like that. Okay, so I get this kind of shape. Okay, and I might do the same up here. So we get something kind of like this, kind of almost like a musical note. But like I said, if we take a look at this form here, I'm going to do Command Y. We get what looks kind of like a skeleton key, which is a kind of a cool thing. Now, if we want to, I'm going to actually do a little bit more manipulating, and I'm going to actually go in here and I'm going to make this a little thinner. And the only way we can make this thinner is I'm going to use my direct selection tool. I'm clicking and dragging, and I want to get all these points right here. Okay, so as long as I got all those points in, I'm going to actually go and get my arrow on my keyboard and just bring that in a little bit, perhaps. All right, so it makes it more like that. And this right here is going to be hard. I'm going to move this a little bit. I usually don't move this, but I just thought, I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, that circle, that inner circle, we could probably reposition. And the only way we're going to reposition that is by using our group selection tool. All right, so let's click off of it for a second. Let's click on this shape. And see, we can move this over here if we wanted to. And this is not totally necessary. I'm just showing you all that can be done here. But basically, if you take a look at our assignment sheet and what I've done here, and we'll click on this for a second so you can see, this is what I've got going on. Okay, and I used Helvetica instead. But I just wanted to show you, how to move things around, especially if they're kind of within a compound path, because that's what's happening there with that circle. Okay, so this will complete our exercise for this. Okay.